Sony's DEI-filled hero shooter Concord recently had its closed beta, which was a complete and utter disaster. They couldn't even scrape together more than 1,200 concurrent players at one time. And of course, over the past few days, as the beta has gone on, people have been absolutely roasting them, and it is hilarious to see gamers fight back against this cringeworthy, mediocre-looking game. I have a few different things to show off, but before I get into the topic, if you enjoy the content I create, check out the links in the description, join the community in my live streams, and consider supporting through Patreon or YouTube memberships. Now, I already have covered the awful player numbers. As you can see, this is a That Park Place article. Concord Early Access Beta draws less than 1,200 concurrent players, and from the get-go, we knew that this game was going to be disaster, and this closed beta was a very bad idea because this is coming from a relatively unknown studio that had been purchased by Sony not that long ago, and of course it is a brand new IP, and you are trying to basically get as many people into your game as possible, and they really said to themselves, we are going to charge $50 whole dollars for this game, even though it is a genre filled with free-to-play games like Overwatch, for example. They really thought that they could just go and charge people $50 for this experience, but they said to themselves, how can we get more people playing? We know, let's give each individual who purchased this game 5 keys. And it's not that bad of an idea if they already had an existing player base, but they didn't, because as we know now, the initial teasers and trailers had gone over extremely poorly, and it doesn't seem like, with all of the promotional material they've released so far, things have gotten very good for them. So it says Firewalk Studios' upcoming team shooter Concord is not drawing in many players during its early access beta. Of course, this is also out on PlayStation 5, and we do not have any sort of player numbers for the PS5, but one would assume they are also pretty low. Usually we don't see some drastic difference. If the Steam charts is roughly 1,200, I can't imagine PlayStation 5 counts being like 100,000. That's usually just not the way that it works. And of course, if their numbers were crazy on console, they'd promote it, but they haven't so far. It says in order to participate in the early access beta, one needs to pre-order the game or receive a code from someone who did pre-order it. We've also seen them give out a massive amount of codes to content creators. There was one content creator who showed that Firewalk gave them 40 keys to give to their audience. That does not signify a confidence from them, right? Maybe giving a creator like 5, 10 keys maximum, but 40 is the highest number I've ever heard being given to a content creator to try to share with their audience. It just screams they knew that people were not going to play this. And of course, we probably will see larger numbers next weekend going into the open beta, because you don't have to purchase it. You don't have to have a key. You can just simply download it from Steam or the PlayStation Store, and you can play it yourself. And I'm sure we are going to see a couple thousand people at least at once playing this because it is free and it's so easily accessible. But at the same time, I don't think, judging by these numbers so far, we are going to see these player counts skyrocket. It says the game does not seem to be garnering a significant player base, at least on Steam. It had, at the time of this screenshot, 584 people playing, and the all-time peak was 1,124. That is a disastrous number, the lowest number I've seen for a game for the all-time peak in a very, very long time, and people took to social media to voice how unhappy they were with this game, whether they did play in the beta or they also were voicing why they would not partake in the betas or play this game in totality. The official PlayStation account had tweeted, Concord's early access weekend is live. PlayStation Plus members can join a crew and try out, and Concord, of course, reposted it. But it has 500,000 views, only 1.8k likes, and there are hundreds of comments absolutely annihilating them. I've got to be honest, I don't really see anyone saying anything positive about this game except for the shill media, who's like, it's got a lot of potential. It actually looks really good. Of course, they're going to defend the DEI Overwatch hero shooter that Sony is putting out. I mean, that's just like a plethora of problems right there, but of course, they're going to shill for it. People are saying things like all of this advertising for a game dead on arrival, nah, not worth it. Looks like the same character designer behind the Acolyte. These are some of the most uninspiring character designs I've ever seen, and it is truly baffling when you hear that this game has allegedly been in development since 2018, since Firewalk's inception. In 2018, they have not put out anything else, and this was supposed to be their like massive debut game, and of course Sony had purchased them last year. So it seemed that they probably were running out of money. They were going to close this down, but Sony was like, we'll give you the rest of the funds you need in order to put this out. It's almost completed anyway. But this was a game made for a 2018 hero shooter audience. This was supposed to be a direct competitor to something like Overwatch. And, the bad character designs aside, I'm always up for trying new games because I would rather developers create new IPs instead of take older ones and twist them around and ruin them, but there's really nothing here that looks good. Now, for open beta weekend, I am going to be live streaming the game. I am going to be testing it out and giving my genuine thoughts on it, but I have to be honest, I've played hero shooters, and if I want to play one, I'm not going to go and buy this title for $50. I'm just going to play one that already exists, like Overwatch, that has an established player base that we know is live and active. With these low numbers, like 1,100 or 1,200 to be generous, you're going to face problems with simple things like matchmaking. I mean, that is not going to be a game that you're going to be able to queue up for a match in 2 or 3 months' time. It's just that simple. People play games, they walk away from them, and yes, sometimes competitive titles can survive and stand the test of time, but you still need to have a decent sized player base for that to happen. People are saying things like such hideous characters, that's a big no for me, dog. Go woke, go broke. So, of course, we still have next weekend's beta, and then it's going to be about a month from full release. So, I'm going to definitely be keeping my eye on these player numbers, but the reception to this has not been good. And now Sony and Firewalk Studios are being absolutely pointed and laughed at by gamers who are saying nobody wanted your DEI cringe-worthy filled game, and that you guys were more focused on adding pronouns to your character descriptions instead of actually making the characters look decent and be, interesting or unique characters. You thought this was going to sell, and it's not, and it is hilarious to see such an overwhelmingly negative reaction to this cringy game. But that's all that I had to discuss in this video. Let everyone know your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed this, give it a like, and if you didn't, give it a dislike. I appreciate your support either way, but I will talk to you all again in the next video really soon.